Good evening and welcome to the 2021 Penn South Meet the Candidates Forum. My name is Jenna Feist and I'm one of the co-chairs of the 2021 Election Committee. The other co-chair is Rocco Ottamanelli. The two of us will be moderating tonight's event. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a meeting for candidates who are running for the Penn South Board of Directors. The purpose is for them to be able to speak to the membership and answer their questions. There are other election events scheduled. Please check your email Penn South announcements or go to our website at pennsouth.coop to see election information. If you're watching on Zoom, you can use a link that should appear at the bottom of your screen. We usually elect 5 candidates each year, but this year we'll elect 6 because of a vacancy. After you vote, the 5 candidates with the highest number of votes will be elected to a full term of 3 years each. The candidate with the 6th highest number of votes will be elected to fill the 1-year term left in the vacant elector's seat. You can vote by proxy before the election or in person the day of the vote. We strongly encourage the use of the proxy, especially because of the continuing pandemic. By mid-October, all shareholders will receive their proxy in the mail. You have 2 options for submitting your proxy form. First, you can return the paper form in the postage-paid envelope. Second, you can submit your proxy online through a secure website. The instructions are in the packet sent to all shareholders by mail. We have to have a minimum number of votes for the election to be valid. That's called a quorum. Please vote, even if you simply register yourself as present for purposes of the quorum. That's one of the choices that's on the ballot. Everyone submitting a proxy will automatically be entered into a raffle for gift cards worth up to $1,000. If you wish to change your selections, you can still vote in person on November 7th. Your vote will replace your proxy. I'm going to take a moment to review the format of today's forum. The rules are designed to give the candidates fair and equal opportunities to answer questions and make statements to our membership. There are 9 candidates, and before the event started, we used a random number generator to assign them an order of speaking. Each round of questioning will reverse the order. Each candidate can offer an opening statement of up to 3 minutes. Candidates then have the opportunity to respond to 3 rounds of questions that were submitted by the audience with a response time of 2 minutes for each question. Candidates can respond as they believe is appropriate. If a candidate doesn't use the full 2 minutes to respond to the question, they can end early, or they can use the remaining time to speak on any topic of their choosing. At the end of the question and answer period, candidates will have the opportunity to make a closing statement of up to 2 minutes. You might have noticed that we have started a little late today. That is because we have a little bit of a technical difficulty, and our timer is going to be a verbal timer today. So please bear with us if you hear someone saying 30 seconds, 15 seconds and time, or if people speak over a little bit. It is because we are high tech and low tech today. The questions that will be asked of the candidate in the meeting come from written submissions by the shareholders. They were selected at random. We received about a dozen questions for each candidate. Some of them are duplicate questions from multiple individuals. Because of that, sometimes the same question will be asked of multiple candidates. Before reading the questions, we'll state the name and the building of the shareholder who posted the question. I would like to remind all candidates that they will be on mute until it's their turn to speak. Please make sure you unmute before you start talking. When your name is called, please pause and wait for 3 seconds before speaking so our technical folks can focus on you. We're now ready to begin. All candidates will have 3 minutes to make an opening statement. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this process. And our first candidate to speak is David Goldsheft.
Hello, my name is David Goldsheft. Thank you to the Board Election Committee and Mario for your efforts in putting everything together tonight. I have lived in Penn South since 2016 and in New York for the past 15 years. I'm an attorney and I work for Columbia University, and I helped start and moderate a Facebook group for the Penn South community. Living in Penn South has been an amazing experience. I feel welcomed here like nowhere else, and it has allowed me to work for a nonprofit institution in a job I love while maintaining a high quality of life. I hope to serve the board and the community to give back and provide current and future residents with similar opportunities by working tirelessly to ensure that we maintain Penn South's affordability, limited equity status, and wonderful sense of community. I fully support greater transparency for how the board conducts its business, limiting use of executive session to situations where confidentiality is required for legal or personal privacy reasons, and increasing cooperators' participation in board matters by allowing greater input ahead of key decisions and allowing cooperators to serve on committees. If elected, I will hold regular meetings to listen to shareholders' concerns and answer questions, and will always be available via email to do the same. The board needs to continue to maintain the co-op's long-term financial health and act proactively rather than reactively in addressing our maintenance and infrastructure needs, especially in light of climate change. We cannot cut corners in these areas. It is this type of foresight that has allowed us to come through the pandemic as well as we have, while supporting both our cooperators and commercial tenants. The HVAC charges rolled into carrying charges, and Commercial 5 are a microcosm of these issues. While the results may have been necessary in each case, and while a better, more transparent process for each may have had the same outcome, going forward, the board needs to do a better job of clearly communicating important issues and soliciting input in a timely fashion. It is vital that we continue the co-op's initiatives to promote racial equity and combat other forms of discrimination. They should be regularly monitored and revised to keep them as effective as possible. One additional way to address these issues might include offering bystander intervention training to members of the community, so it is not only staff and security who are better able to safely address incidents of racism or bigotry. Last year, candidates mentioned that we need to encourage more diverse individuals to run for the board, and we do. But this year's slate of new candidates shows that we still have work to do.
30 seconds.
I look forward to discussing any other areas of concern with any cooperators. Please feel free to contact me at any time. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Our next speaker will be Robert Sikorski.
I'm glad to be before you again. I've been a resident here since 1999. And after a year, I was on the co-op council, and I learned about Penn South and how Penn South works in my time at the co-op council. And from there, I went to the board, and I've been on the board for about 20 years. Now, the experience that brought me to the board was that I was a real estate attorney. I am a real estate attorney still, and I had been on other charitable boards too. In my life. And one day, Dave Smith asked me if I would join the board. And I said yes. And it's been a good experience. But one of the things we have to worry about now is, and we always have to worry about it, is the infrastructure of Penn South and the financing of Penn South and making sure we have enough money to survive and that we don't overspend ourselves. I've been on Penn South during the heating renovations and the cooling renovations, which actually worked quite well. And the second elevator installation and renovations of the existing elevator. I've been there through the recent restructuring on management when there were some bad times and difficulty with management, but that's worked out quite well too. And everybody pulled together on the board and the cooperators that work with us, and we found a good solution. And we have a new management structure which worked well. We still have to do more things. Infrastructure still needs attention. Electrical needs attention. This is a problem. In fact, it's a safety issue. And so does our gas distribution system. That needs attention. And that's going to be a safety issue. A lot of this is going to cost more money. And what we have to do is we have to see if we can get refinancing at better rates than we have now. Although I have to say our rates are quite good. And every time we refinanced in the past, we've gotten better and better rates. Another problem that's come up recently, which is not infrastructure, is the question of working together as Penn South residents, as cooperators. And there's the issue of discrimination. But when I look at the word cooperator, it means we all cooperate together. And there shouldn't be any discrimination between any one person and the other, because that's the opposite of cooperating. How can you look at some person because of his race, of his ethnic background, and hold anything against that person, or even if that person is a worker? You can't. That's not the nature of cooperation. And we always have to remember that we have to cooperate. Even on the board, there tend to be conflicts on the board. I try to avoid the conflicts and look for a cooperative solution to things. So cooperation is really my middle name. That's it.
David Smoke, our next speaker.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Smoke. Thank you for taking some time tonight to probably a busy evening to come and listen to all of us, talk and discuss our ideas, our thoughts for Penn South. It feels like just yesterday I was sitting in my grandparents' house with my parents, with friends, with neighbors, talking about things that need to be done in Penn South, right? That wasn't yesterday. That was back in the early 80s, right? And these conversations are conversations that have been happening within Penn South since the beginning, right? And even before this development was built, right? And one of the things that I took out of being a kid listening to those conversations was that we need to work together. We need to listen to each other, other perspectives, right? We might not always agree. We might not always see eye to eye, but we can understand each other, respect each other, and try to teach each other along the way as well, right? And that is something that I want to bring to the board. I want to listen to the residents. I want to listen to the community, right? I want to work together. When I look around right now with all 9 cooperators running for the board, I wish we can all serve together and work together. I'm hearing great ideas. And I also want to work with the board members that are currently on the board, right? And I think that together we can make this a really special place because we are at a critical juncture in Penn South. Like it's been said just already a couple times, the infrastructure, remaining limited equity. I'm a teacher. My family is teachers, union workers, and it's so important that my children have a safe place to live here. And when I mean safe, I mean financial security to be able to do the things that we want to do, live the life that we want to live, not a lavish life, but just a decent life that my grandparents and the early cooperators here, that was their vision, right? And we do that by working together and listening, right? As I said in my bio, so I won't focus too much on right now, but safety is another priority. Making sure our eldest, the elderly in this community are safe, making sure the youngest, I have a teenage daughter who's gonna be walking around on her own. I want her to feel safe. And safety is also about fixing some pieces that feel unsafe. I had to help a cooperator up the other day because he tripped on the sidewalk, right? On something that should not have been there. And these are things that I want to work on: green energy, roof gardens, so many things that we can work on that I hope to share with you along this process and work with everyone here and on the board to work on many of these issues that are being raised today that are so critical to our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Petra Schein is our next speaker.
Good evening and greetings from Amsterdam, where I am presently, and it is 1:27 a.m. And so I could also say good morning to all. My name is Petra Schein, and I'm currently completing my first term as a board member. It has been a rewarding experience that I look forward to continuing if reelected. The complexities and broad range of issues, both large and small, play to my strengths of attention to detail and organizational skill. Having been a senior account manager for a large event marketing company, I know that the success of any project or endeavor requires an understanding of the goals and then navigating through any unforeseen problems. This always involves also having the interpersonal abilities of bringing people together to reach a consensus in solving issues and reach the desired result. I have now lived in Penn South for the past 13 years. After I retired from my career and was simply enjoying the benefits of our Penn South community, I began to find ways of giving back. I attended a meeting at PSPS and became a board member, eventually becoming the chairperson of the PSPS Advisory Council Committee, as well as a member of the Co-op Council representing Building 8A. During the COVID period, I organized and managed the biweekly meal distribution at the Penn South Senior Center. I also organized and managed the free vaccine clinic for over 700 cooperators at Penn South. At present, I am the chairperson of the Conversations in Color Committee, which is open to all cooperators, to which I invite you all to attend. I encourage you to contact me with any questions or issues. In fact, if you see me out and about, simply engage with me in person, which I prefer. It continues to be a great privilege for me to live in this wonderful complex, and I'm dedicated to working toward its continued affordability, maintenance, and improvements for the present and the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Aaron Bruto.
Hi, thank you very much for being with me this evening, with all of us. I just want to say, as I look at my screen, how privileged I feel to live in Penn South. I don't think there are very many places in America where people live together in this way. That sense of cooperation is what inspired me to run. The decision around commercial building number 5 troubled me because it was not in the spirit of cooperation. Cooperation cannot happen without transparency. And I think the current board's use of executive session, unfortunately, allowed the problem of commercial building number 5 to fester for too long. We lost valuable time in which cooperators could have offered input to the board and potential solutions. Now, the current MAG deal may in fact have been the best deal we could have possibly gotten. But because of this lack of transparency, we don't really know if that's the case. And that's really unfortunate. So that's why, when and if elected to the board, I promise to push for a limit to executive session, to open board meetings, to quarterly meetings with cooperators, so the cooperators can simply ask questions and be informed and educated about the issues that we face. If we go forward with the MAG deal, and if that's in the best interests of Penn South, then that's what we should do. I want to push to make sure that the labor that builds what replaces commercial building number 5 is union labor. I also want to make sure that we work on issues of racial justice at Penn South. These are important issues, but I know that many people have been working on these issues for years already. We, the board, should be listening to them. And that's what I mean by transparency. Transparency means input from cooperators. Finally, I want to endorse my fellow candidate, John Dillon. He too is deeply committed to transparency as an issue at Penn South. I know that together,
30 seconds.
We can make good things happen here. I do want to just end with a little story. As you all noted, the meeting began a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties. Now, we worked together to solve those problems. Because we were open, we all understood what the problems were. Once we know, we can help each other and we can do great things. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Morse Benjamin.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this Meet the Candidates meeting this evening. I hope everyone and their families are well and healthy. And if you're watching this during the week, it'll be on for the next 3 weeks on RCN channel 99. I'm asking for your support again to run and reelect me to the board. I've been a board member for 30 years. Some people would say 30 years is too long. However, I disagree. I think as the board president for 11 years, we accomplished a great deal of things. We extended our contract with HPD to 2057. So when people talk about going private, affordability, and all of that, it can't happen until 2057. So remember that because it's really important. Our mortgage, when I was president, we refinanced at a 3.23% rate for 35 years. We're trying to get even a better rate. Every time we get a better rate, we save money on interest. Money saved on interest means a reduction in the amount of money we may have to ask for an increase in maintenance. A lot of work is being done. Our electrical underground upgrade, we continue to look at that. The power plant continues to be upgraded. The HVAC completion of the power plant and the air cooling, I think we had one of the hottest summers this year. Everyone would agree that air cooling was really pretty good. And that's because of all the work that the current board put into this. You know, we've talked and people are talking about executive session. Executive session might be too much or too often, but very necessary. In executive session, we talk about individual shareholders or residents and problems they may have. No one wants us to talk about them in public meetings. We talk about apartment allocations. People sometimes have trouble buying an apartment. How do we help them? That's a private thing. We talk about our employees. We talk about lease negotiations. We talk about client attorney privilege. We talk about things that the general manager feels are very sensitive and issues that need to be addressed. So yes, the board goes into a lot of executive session, but there's a reason for it. And the reasons are valid. And the new board members that will join the board will see that really quickly.
15 seconds.
I'll talk more later, but thank you. And I am looking for your support. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Charles Bayor.
Am I on, Jenna? Tom is on.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your voice is low. I didn't quite get it. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here to talk to Penn South cooperatives. I just want to give you a little bio of myself. I'm a retired high school teacher. When I was in I was a long-term chapter leader. And after I retired, I went to work as an organizer for the UFT. But then I moved to Penn South, which was a very important part of my life. And when I got to Penn South, I wanted to pay back for being able to live here. And I remember when I moved in here, there was an education committee, which sort of introduced me to what was going on in Penn South. From there, I moved as a representative on the Co-op Council, and after a period of time, I became the chair of the Co-op Council. In the period that I was Co-op Council chair, I have done a lot of work in elevating the Penn South Co-op Council to make it more visible to cooperatives, to improve the relationship with the board of directors, and to introduce diversity. The Co-op Council is the most diverse institution in Penn South. When I left the Penn South Co-op Council, My successor was a woman of color. The existing organization of the Co-op Council now is primarily women. I'm very proud of that. I also was involved in Chelsea Rising. I was one of the founding members of the LGBTQ organization here in Penn South. And I reached out to the wider community. And in doing so, I got elected Democratic District Leader, 63rd Election Assembly District Part A, which we live in. I represent the second oldest reform club in New York, CRTC. I have very definite aims. One of the aims is to keep this place a limited equity co-op. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's the most important thing. And the second thing is to encourage more diversity. And that is very important for the success of Penn South. I encouraged and fought for 2 women of color to be on the board of directors. And I'm very proud of that.
30 seconds.
And I hope that I hope that you'll give me a chance to serve you for a longer period of time. I was just appointed to board in June. I really haven't had that much experience on the board yet. So I want really to do the full term. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tom Rosenthal.
Thank you, Jenna. My name is Tom Rosenthal. I live in building 2B. I moved here in 2007 after having been on the list for about 16 years and having completely forgotten about our application. And when we got called, it was almost like a godsend. And I was enamored of the place. I thought this was incredible. How can this exist in Manhattan? It's wonderful. And so after I retired, I tried to do whatever work I could do. And so I joined the Co-op Council because nobody else wanted to join it. So I was elected unanimously by apathy, and that continued for many years. And then before Charles was chair, I was chair of the Co-op Council, and before that I had served on other committees. But it was always my aim just to help in any way I could promote this co-op. And I was not going to run for the board. As chairman of the Co-op Council, I had been to about 2 years of board meetings, and I don't know if the board members here will cop to it. These meetings are tedious and long and often boring. But then came Building 5, and I was upset about the deal, and I was upset about the choices that were given the cooperators. You can choose to spend $40 million to rehabilitate a building and have your maintenance go up $500 a month, or you can choose this deal. Now, I think the board, in insisting that we do a deal as a 70-30 building, is maybe their heart is in the right place and getting 30% of this new building to be for affordable units, but the numbers belie that effect.
30 seconds.
All right. So anyhow, I have a lot more to say about that, but I'm running for the board because of Building 5 and my experience as a project manager for high-rise development, and I think I can add some knowledge to this situation. Thank you.
I thought I hit the time at the call. Our next speaker is John Dillon.
Good evening. Before I begin to speak, I must point out that the rules for this forum gave the candidates an out, not to answer a question, but instead to speak on a topic of their choice. I pledge now that I'm going to answer every question that I'm asked, and I'll urge the other candidates to do exactly the same. Why am I running? This board conducts too much business in secret. Cooperators aren't even permitted to observe the open session of board meetings. Let's start with Commercial Building 5, Gristedes. Cooperators should be able to vote on major financial decisions. It came as a shock to cooperators that we are selling a piece of land to a private developer. A 99-year lease is tantamount to a sale. We were not informed. Why? Maybe they thought we couldn't understand, but more likely there were aspects of the deal that they knew that we would figure out, and they didn't want us to give us the opportunity to do that. MAG is a developer of large products, but for us, they're supposed to construct a 7-story building. That is small change for a group like MAG. You know, if this deal goes through, MAG may just demolish the building and then say something like, oh, 7 floors are not enough for us to make a profit. We need it to be taller. Then they threaten to walk away, leaving us no choice but to agree to their new terms or fight them in the court, which would cost us millions. We don't even know if the demolition is necessary. We need to explore other options. I'm a union guy. I was horrified when I learned that the board agreed that non-union labor would be used in the construction and maintenance of this building. MAG claims they will pay prevailing wages. What about health benefits, pension plan, sick leave, job security? Non-union construction sites are notoriously unsafe, cutting corners like disregarding safety rules to make a profit. Remember that condo in Florida that collapsed in June? It was built with non-union labor. This board should be ashamed of this deal, considering the union history of Penn South. We need a more diverse board for a broader representation of who cooperators are and should be. I will encourage the open participation of cooperators on committees and implementation of systems to be more responsive to
30 seconds.
There are only 2 candidates who have declared open opposition to the MAG deal. That is me and Aaron Brudel. This deal is the first step to privatizing Penn South. If MAG decides to sell the lease to another developer, which they can do, we will have little control what comes next. Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the question portion of the meeting. Just a reminder, these were submitted by residents and they were drawn randomly. Some were submitted for every candidate, so there may be some duplication. We will work in the board to fix that problem in the future, but today we have that problem. So David Goldsheft is the first candidate to receive a question. Ellen Shapiro of 3B asks, who associates themselves with LEAPS?
I'm not part of LEAPS, so I don't feel at all qualified to answer that question. I'm sorry, I can't give more information on that. I know LEAPS has a website that anyone can go to, but I wouldn't know how to answer that question beyond that. I'm sorry, I can't give any more information on that. If you're asking if I'm a member of LEAPS, I support their goals of limited equity, 100%, but beyond that, I can't say anything else about it.
You have 3 minutes if you want to continue speaking. David, are you done with your question? Do you want to keep talking? Oh, I'm sorry, 2 minutes.
Sure. So I'll speak on another issue. One issue that has come up is making it easier for cooperators to move from larger apartments to smaller ones. In some cases, if a cooperator has been here for a while, even the smaller apartments might be out of reach financially. And I know that the board and management have come up with ways, to make that easier, so they're not faced with, a high cost for that. But if there's any way that the board and management can go even further and, work with the city to, sorry, let me back up a second. So we know that when a new cooperator moves into the vacated apartment, they'll be paying the higher equity.
30 seconds.
If there's any way for a portion of that higher equity to go to the cooperator moving out as an incentive to move out, I think that's something the board should look into, so we can get more, growing families into 2 and 3 bedroom apartments.
15.
The next question is for Robert Sikorski. Renee Rizzo of Building 10 asks, are you in favor of refinancing our loan with Wells Fargo? Did you personally do your research on Wells Fargo and decide in favor of replacing our original loan with Wells Fargo?
I'm in favor of refinancing whatever bank gives us more favorable interest rates. That's the point. It's not whether it's Wells or whether it's Chase or whatever bank it is, or whether it's Citibank. It makes no difference. It's not the bank, it's the interest rate we're getting, and what does it cost us to refinance? That's the real question. It's dollars and cents. And what I want is less interest, so we have more money to put into our infrastructure here. And so we have to then, we don't have to then go to the cooperators any more than necessary. We want to save money. We don't want to spend your money. We want to have the banks charge us less money so we can run this place more efficiently. Okay. I think that answers that question. But what I want to talk about is the questions that came up about really executive session. And executive session, I think, and I'm on the board, it bothers me that sometimes it's used too often, but sometimes it's appropriate. You have to know, when we talk about leases, we can't discuss negotiating leases and then put what all the negotiating terms are about the leases on the record. When we're negotiating contracts, we can't put what the negotiations are on the record. But sometimes there are personal disputes between, actually, sometimes even people on the board. And some of those are appropriate for public exposure. Occasionally, you have to watch out that you don't want to create too much conflict in the board by exposing conflict as you get competing interests of the board. But by and large, I think it's a good thing. Okay, thank you.
The next question is for David Smoke. Ellen Shapiro of 3B asks, who associates themselves with LEAPS?
Okay, hi everyone. I mean, like David, I can't answer for everybody out there and the residents out there, right? That's a question that, you can ask in your community. I do know that LEAP stands for a lot of the things that I'm hearing a lot of about tonight, about limited equity, right? About making sure that we develop reserve funds, right? Making sure that we're thinking about the future of Penn South and making sure that the next generation is prepared and ready to take on the things that are coming its way, right? So, right, I am not a member of LEAPS, but only because, like I said in the beginning of this forum, I want to collaborate with everyone, right? I share many ideas, I believe, with LEAPS. I look forward to working with them, listening to them, but I want to work together with everyone, whether you're a part of LEAPS, whether you're part of any organization at Penn South, right? I want to work together because we have a lot to accomplish together, right? These buildings were built many, many years ago, and we've talked about what needs to happen. How is that going to happen? The reserve fund, right? Developing a reserve fund. These are critical issues that need to be talked about amongst everyone in the community, right? One thing I also am looking forward to doing is to bringing out new voters, getting more people involved, right? We want to maximize our skills in Penn South, right?
30
As I
seconds.
talk to people, I'm realizing a lot of residents here have a lot to offer. They might not want to run for the board for many reasons, right? But they can still participate, work together. I want to bring in those perspectives. I want to utilize everyone and everything that we can do here to make tomorrow as bright as it was my entire life growing up here, as I hear many of the candidates talking about here tonight. Thank you.
The next question is for Petra Schein. Judy Cohen of Building 2A asks, last year, I sent a letter to the board regarding the inequity of lifetime membership in the garden, which has a waiting list of over 200 people. I requested that my letter be discussed in open session so cooperators would be aware of it in the minutes. Why was it discussed secretly in executive session?
Am I on? I believe it's because, again, it is a personal matter. So when it comes to the garden, if I understand it correctly, this has already been discussed and a response was given to her. So if she feels that it was incomplete, then, just a minute, then she should come back and write another letter. But I feel that a response has been given and it has been explained as to why, and that's where it's at. That's it.
You have more time, Petra. You can talk about whatever.
I don't need more time. Thank you.
The next question is for Aaron Bruto. Lynn Mallison of Building 5 asks, the congestion pricing tax will hurt many residents within the so-called CBD by charging. It is currently estimated to be between $9 and $24 per day, even while parked in a lot and not clogging the streets during peak hours. What has been done, or how would you address the situation?
That's a great question. A lot of people in Penn South are drivers. And again, one of the great privileges of living here is access to easy parking and our easy use of our cars. I do support congestion pricing. However, my understanding is, following local politics, is that the rules have yet to be written.
Aaron, please put the microphone as close to your mouth as possible so folks can hear you. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. My understanding is that the rules have yet to be written for congestion pricing. And I think we need to be working with our local elected officials to make sure that those rules defend the residents of Penn South. I'm sure everybody who lives below 60th Street and owns a car will be thinking the same thing. However, we have the power here of numbers. So that is essentially what I would do. Now, I just want to pivot here for a moment and just say that I think that same solution can and ought to be used to address many of our other issues. It is not clear to me that our local elected officials are as aware of our problems as they should be. Again, I'm going to return to commercial building number 5 and just point out that if the issues with commercial building number 5 had been transparently shared with cooperators years in advance, then we would have had time to organize a informational campaign for our elected officials to let them know what our problems are and to solicit their help. Other large co-ops in New York City have done the same over the last year. I think that's an advantage that we can use at Penn South. Thank you.
I think you still have some time left. Do you want to use it?
Just to say
There's
that
no
I
time
think-
left, excuse me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see time in the window. I'm very, very sorry, Aaron.
Right.
Our next speaker is Morris Benjamin. His question is from Tira Bluestone in Building 10. Please share what you will do to enforce the mask mandate in Penn South if you are elected. Might it include a penalty fee for anyone observed without a mask?
If you read the board minutes, you would see that the board supports mask wearing in the buildings, in the elevators, and that there are $50 penalties for violating those rules. And people first get a warning because sometimes you forget. You might get a second warning because you forgot twice. But after that, you get a fine. It's $50. And people have been fined. It's the last thing we really want to do. We don't want to put that responsibility on our security people. They have more important jobs to do, like making sure everybody is safe in Penn South. But we have a very strong policy, much stronger than New York City when it comes to wearing masks in Penn South, in our elevators, and in our lobbies, in our laundry rooms, and everywhere else. Because we're concerned not just about the individual, but also about all our neighbors. We have a lot of older neighbors. I say older, even though I'm older, but that are vulnerable. And we need to protect everyone. So the answer is yes, that we as a board support it. And it's been in the minutes, open minutes, not executive session. And you can read it. And it's been there more than once. And you
30
get the
seconds.
announcements, Penn South announcements that Mario does a fantastic job of. And it's in there all the time. And when you walk into the building, you have big posters. So mask wearing is with us. I don't know how much longer, but for now, we definitely enforce that rule. Thank you.
Our next question is for Charles Bayor. Rene Rizzo of Building 10 asks, are you in favor of refinancing our loans with Wells Fargo? Did you personally do your research on Wells Fargo and decide in favor of placing our loan with Wells Fargo?
I'm going to have to agree with Robert in that we need to find the best deal we can get when we're looking for refinancing. And so if Wells Fargo is one of the people that meet our needs, I see no reason why not. I just want to say, I have time, right? I just want to say that in terms of congestive pricing, which I have been very involved in, Co-op Council has had 2 meetings, one prior to the summer and one just recently last week, of which Brad Hoylman was present and was questioned very thoroughly on congestive pricing. Also, the Co-op Council rep went down to the congestive pricing hearing and presented a statement to it, okay? We're following up with our, the Democratic Party, Democratic Club is having a forum in November on congestive pricing, of which all public officials will be available for questioning on congestive pricing. And we have to remember right now, our public officials are very much in favor of it. And we have to, well, Brad is starting to move because he sees the opposition that he's found in Penn South to congestive pricing. And we have to work on our elected officials, every single one of them, the ones that will actually vote on this or have a voice in it. And that's basically the state officials, Brad and Dick Godfrey. That's right now where we're at. It's a very oppressive tax that's going to be placed upon Penn South. There's no question about that. I'm sorry, I'm finished. Thank you.
I'm speaking. Okay. Sorry, I thought I was muted. For the next question is for Tom Rosenthal. Carmen Matthias of Building 10 asks, if everyday issues are not addressed, it's difficult to believe that more important ones will be. I've seen cooperators running their dogs in the recreational area without leashes, sitting on the benches and in the basketball court. I've seen them in the grass between buildings 9 and 10. Why are security guards confused about rules and unpleasant when approached?
I hope I understand the question that it's about dogs. Dogs shouldn't be allowed to run without a leash. That's actually a New York City law, and it's a safety concern. So I do believe that security has been told to approach those cooperators and tell them to get the dogs on the leash. You know, there's a problem. Well, that's definite. But then there's the problem of dogs on the grass. We allowed to have dogs. We have a lot of dogs in the co-op. Dogs tend to like grass. You can tell them to stay on the cement pavement, but without flinching, right? In a blink, they will move to the grass. I actually think that we should extend the mulch along the paths for about 2 or 3 feet, and that way dogs can get their feet on something soft, and it won't harm the grass. And actually, I think it will look very good. Stuyvesant Town has something like that. That's my dog answer. The other thing is security doesn't have the dog police. Thank you.
I have a little bit more time. Do you want to use it, Tom?
Oh, I thought my time was up.
You said 30 seconds.
Yeah, so security really doesn't want to be the dog doo-doo police. So they tend to recoil from that responsibility, but certainly they should be told that any dog off a leash needs to be, actually the owner should be given a warning. And I think they're allowed to even give them a ticket because it's a city regulation. The other thing is more complicated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question is for John Dillon. Linda Vigdor, I hope I pronounced that right, apologies if I did not, of Building 5 asks, keeping PS affordable is a common campaign promise. I'd like to know what you mean by affordable and what policies you would advocate to sustain affordability. For example, raising equity and rather steep refurbishing or redecorating charges, increasingly impact affordability. Do you have specific ideas to address these and other financial challenges?
Yes, I have ideas. I do think that us leasing or selling property should not be amongst those ideas. I believe there's ways to approach state and local government to raise funds to keep this place as a limited equity cooperative. I mean, I love the chance to sit on the board and have these discussions with board members, but it seems that almost everything here is done in total secret, and we have no idea whether the board approached local politicians during the MAG deal or not. I would also like to switch just a little bit to the question that Petra was asked. Full disclosure, Judy Cohen's my wife, so I work with a lot of boards of different things, boards of education, union boards, and they don't have to go into executive session. They can discuss things without mentioning the person's name. So you can actually answer these questions in open session. You just don't record the names. It's quite simple. Mr. B wanted this, Mr. A wanted that. That's what other boards do, and that's what I'd like to see this board do, to bring things out into the open so we can discuss them.
30 seconds.
Okay. On the safety issue, first of all, I'd like to thank the two Davids. I thought you were great. I mean, I like what you said, and especially on the safety issue, as winter approaches us, these scaffolds are like dark tunnels at night, and I would like to see us look at the ways to illuminate them better during these winter months. Thank you.
So as mentioned in the introduction, we have an order and then we reverse the order. So because the order is now reversed, our last speaker is now our first. So the next question is again for John Dillon. John, your question is from Lynn Mallison of Building 5. The congestion pricing tax will hurt many residents within the so-called CBD by charging the price. It's currently estimated to be between $9 and $24 even day, even when parked in a lot. What has been done and how would you address the situation?
Well, I don't know what has been done. I can say that the person who endorsed me to run, Aaron Burrow, answered that question quite adequately. I mean, I would like to reduce congestion on the streets. Obviously, I'm not an expert on traffic control or congestion control. I know what I'd like to see done. There's some way to regulate cyclists. I mean, walking across the streets here is a dangerous game. And I know that this is not the board's issue, but the thing that is the board's issue is cyclists on our sidewalks, on their walkways, under these scaffolds, and it's become a real problem. I would like to say that, though, that I'd like to see a change in the way that committees are structured. Right now, to the best of my knowledge, every committee is led by a board member. That might be wrong, but I know that every committee session I've been to has been led by a board member. I think that should change. I think cooperators should lead these committees. It should be a grassroots effort from the ground up, not the authoritarian method that the board is using now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is for Tom Rosenthal, and it's from Ellen Shapiro of 3B. Who associates themselves with LEAPS?
Thank you, Ellen. I was a founding member of LEAPS, and I actually coined the acronym Limited Equity at Penn South when we were trying to find a name. And I was the first treasurer of LEAPS. And LEAPS originally was limited equity at Penn South. That was their goal, that was their purpose, and that's what I signed up for. We then got this wonderful HUD mortgage. We are locked now into limited equity into 2056. So the whole reason for LEAPS has disappeared, and I have disassociated myself with them because their reason for being is no longer there. So my reason for joining changed. So I am no longer affiliated with LEAPS. Thank you, Ellen. And I do want to just say that, on this executive session, I have never sat in on an executive session, so I have no way of knowing whether it's, an abuse of secrecy or not. And actually, I don't think anybody who hasn't sat in could know that. So if you get elected to the board, then you can have an opinion on executive session. Thank you.
Did it? Sorry. The next question is for Charles Bayor. Lynn Mallison, B5. The congestion pricing tax will hurt many residents within the CBD. It's currently estimated between $9 and $24 a day, even when parked. What has been done and how would you address the situation?
Can you repeat that, Jenna?
It's the congestion pricing question, Charles.
Yes.
So it's hurt many residents. It will hurt many residents. It's currently estimated between $9 and $24 per day. And not clogging the streets. What has been done and how would you address the situation?
Okay. By the way, I apologize. I have a new dog walker. I have to help him with the dog. I am absolutely opposed to congestion pricing. It's an onerous, regressive tax, and we should not be burdened with that. So the answer is obviously to organize. The Co-op Council has taken the lead on it. I would suggest that you can remember the people on the Co-op Council, your representatives, and they would be perfect to organize around with the Co-op Council and when they have these meetings, well, everybody's invited to take part, and so that they can see where your elected officials are. You can start with obviously there are petition campaigns that can be done, letter campaigns that can be done. These are the kind of things that will affect our local officials. Both of them are up for re-election this year. And I know they're going to be elected because this is a overwhelmingly Democratic neighborhood, but we can still affect their opinion on this. And it's very important they are the ones that are going to determine what's going to happen. I leave it at that.
You have more time, Charles, if you want to talk about something else.
Well, I also would like to, I never attended executive session either until I went on the board in June. And I went, the executive session is what it says. It's for private matters.
30 seconds.
Would not be good. It would not be valuable for the people who are affected, who are being spoken about, or to the general cooperators. This is a legal. It's a legal thing. It's controlled by legislation. There are attorneys present. I can't imagine what the problem is with executive session. I think it's the people who object to it don't understand the value of executive session to protect.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from Morris Benjamin. The congestion pricing, Lynn Mallison of Building 5. The congestion pricing tax will hurt many residents within the so-called CBD by charging what is currently estimated to be between $9 and $24 a day, even while parked. What has been done and how will you address the situation?
Okay, sorry, I had to unmute. 3 or 4 people have answered that question. The information on congestive pricing is not out there yet. There's a lot of rules, regulations. The policy should have been implemented 2-3 years ago. It has not. So I can't really tell you what I think about it until I really see what it's going to be. I don't think it's a great idea to charge every individual that lives below 59th Street a penalty because they live below 59th Street and have a car. So something will need to be worked out. I mean, Brad Hoylman said there'll be a discount for those people, but even a discount of $2 or $5 is too much. If a person owns a car, every time they take it out, they're going to have to pay, which I do not think is smart. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to happen for another 3-4 years. I still have some time. Good. I just want to remind shareholders that tomorrow there's a Conversations in Color presentation that is really important. It's a special guest, and everyone should really try to attend that thing. And I want to also say that Petra Schein, who's on the board, chairs that committee and has done an amazing job. That committee is open to everyone.
Seconds.
You don't have to be on the board to attend, even though I've attended every meeting, but I've seen some people that are here have attended some of those meetings. It's a great committee. It's very outspoken. We have a lot of conversations that you probably would not have if you bumped into the person on the street. So it's a learning experience and it's great. So please attend tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Aaron Bruto. It is from Joan Starr in Building 6B. Will the recent crisis at the Penn South Credit Union affect the loan applications for current cooperators hoping to secure funds for a larger apartment?
Thank you, Joan, for your question. So looking into it as much as possible, my understanding is that it will not, that what happened at the credit union, while very unfortunate, had to do with deletion of information. So long as they can get that information backed up, I think going forward, cooperators should be okay. But I also know that there are other borrowers that are out there, and I think that Penn South might do to inform new residents of all of their options. But I do think that what's going on at the credit union is worth investigation. My understanding is the credit union is a completely separate institution from the board, but that doesn't mean that the board can't do its job to inform residents about this issue. Now, with that being said, I do just want to address the question of executive session really quickly. We've had a few people on here defend executive session, and I do understand that legally executive session is sometimes required. And I think when it's legally required, the board should go into executive session. However, an issue like our infrastructure moving forward should not be discussed in executive session. There's simply no need for it. I think that if it were not an executive session, then the possible solutions would be out there, would have been discussed more openly. And I just want to say, if elected, I promise to never surprise cooperators with a deal like the MAG deal for commercial building number 5. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Petra Schein. And Petra, the question for you is from Joan Starr. Will the recent crisis at Penn South Credit Union affect the loan applications for current cooperators hoping to secure funds for a larger apartment?
My answer to that is I don't think so. It will not affect it negatively as far as I understand. Of course, I don't have all the information at hand, but I don't think it will. And as far as, I still have time left, yes, congestion pricing, I personally am all for it because I don't like what I see on 8th Avenue starting at 2:30 in the afternoon and all the honking that goes on. That's number one. Yes, we need to discuss what the pricing needs to be. Nothing has been set in stone yet. It has only been approved, but it needs to be discussed in finer details. Dogs. Tom Rosenthal. There is 1.5 feet of chip already between 8 and 6 where dogs could walk. Not allowed on the grass at all. So, and that was the rule that has been established. They can be fined, and security is allowed to do that. They have the necessary tickets to fine them. Of course, you know, when you say something to a cooperator, they're very nasty to you. They were very nasty to me, even though I said it very kindly.
30 seconds.
But it doesn't really matter. But the rules are there, so they need to be followed. That's it.
Thank you. The next question is for David Smoke from Phyllis Shanley in Building 5. Please discuss your degree of satisfaction including the basis for same, with inclusion of shareholders in the decision-making process, leading to the conclusion that commercial 5 should be demolished and replaced with the MAG development.
Hi, everyone. Hi again. Thank you for that question. I think that the state of building 5, commercial building 5, has been deteriorating for a very long time, right? These are conversations that I think have been going on for a very long time, maybe over a decade. And we need to think about the infrastructure of our buildings, right? I give the current board credit for bringing it to our attention, right? Many people think it's a little late, but it was brought to our attention. It's going to be discussed, right? As far as I know, there are still things we can put into a deal, change the deal a little bit if we come together, right? We come together, we talk about it, we work on it, right? But a bigger question, right? Not bigger than commercial 5 and 100-year lease and all of that, right? So I'm not trying to diminish this, the seriousness of that, but we have other commercial buildings as well, right? We have a building on 25th, between 25th and 24th and 9th Avenue. Many of the commercial spaces in there are empty. Penn South, as far as I know, is not collecting revenue from the new care building, right? So we need to think about the future of all of our buildings, our infrastructure. And how do we do that? How do we stay limited equity and continue to make sure that our buildings are secure, safe, right? And there's many ways that we can start to do that, right? One is using green energy, right? How can we utilize green energy? How can we utilize the spaces that we can use to try to create revenue, right? That are not doing any harm to the community, right? And we need to think about securing loans, grants, refinancing this HUD loan, all of these things, creating a reserve fund so we can take care of this. So these conversations aren't coming up every 5 or 10 years. We can do this together.
The next question is for Robert Sikorski. It's from Judy Chen in 2B. What are your views on corporate responsibility to the communities where they generate billions in profit? Why are people paying higher prices for food, rent, and healthcare, yet corporations pay zero in income tax? New York City needs to build more affordable housing like Penn South, not just save what little affordable housing New York City has. New York City has become unaffordable for most working class people. How would you demand greater corporate fiscal responsibility to the people of New York City so affordable housing, not luxury condos, can be built?
Well, the question of luxury condos and affordable housing is an interesting question, and it's a compelling question. That's why when there was negotiations and there were several people, which is why it was not discussed what the various choices were for building 5, we came to the conclusion that the people who gave us some 30% affordable housing in there, according to the city's current rules, was the one to go with, because other people didn't want to do that. When you have a city giving us money, when we did the renovation of the heating plant in New York City went to the city and they gave us $5 million of a forgivable loan. So they lent us $5 million, but we don't have to pay it back. That's nice. But that's recently why when we wanted money from the city for building 5, they said, we just gave you $5 million for a forgivable loan. And it hasn't even been fully forgiven yet. So don't ask us for too much. So that's a problem. You have to watch out what you can ask for. Should the city, I think during the time of COVID, there's more and more opportunities because there's less and less commercial structure there. People are vacating the city commercially, for the city to take steps to make this more livable for residents and to make it cheaper for residents. And also the fact that some of the profit is being taken away from landlords because of COVID is actually COVID's a bad thing, but taking profit away from landlords is a good thing. because now it inspires them to look for better things to do, for renting to tenants, for more reasonable rents, and for developing residential facilities that people can afford. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for David Goldsheft. Susan Ortega from Building 6B. Why or why not do you think there should be a term limit for Penn South board members?
Right, so having not been on the board, it's a little bit of a difficult question to answer. I know that the board benefits from the experience that you can only get from serving, multiple terms. Like with most things, I'll give you a very attorney-like answer and say it depends. I mean, how many terms, would someone have in mind? So I'd certainly be open to discussing that. And I know it's important to always have, new ideas on the board. So I'm certainly open to the idea, but I think it would have to be done in a way that, doesn't discount the value of experience and also allows, previous board members who may have reached their term limits to continue to contribute in some way if they wanted to. So I think that's, as far as term limits, that's probably all I would have.
You have 1 minute left, David.
Okay. So another, I think, issue, we've talked about giving more information to cooperators and, having cooperators be more involved. And I think, the more involved, having them be more involved is something I would, want to emphasize. It's important to remember that we all live in a co-op and we're all supposed to be, working together to improve things for all of us. So if there's any way that the board can, encourage, community service and any other kind of involvement, volunteering amongst cooperators, we should do that. We can't require it the way some co-ops do, but the more that people are reminded of where we live and that we all depend on each other, I think that makes it easier to, resolve disagreements when we have them, and to build a stronger and healthier community for everyone. Thank you.
So we're reversing order again. And so David just spoke, and then he was going to get the first question in the third round. So David, your question is from Phyllis Shanley of Building 5. Please discuss your degree of satisfaction, including basis for same, with the inclusion of shareholders in the decision-making process leading to the conclusion that Commercial 5 should be demolished and replaced with the MAG development.
Right, so the vote that we held was advisory, and that was certainly, advisory vote, and people voted overwhelmingly for the option A. Of the options that were given, I think it's easy to understand why so many people chose that one. And it's, I think it's likely that, the board may have gone ahead with the MAG deal, was leaning towards the MAG deal anyway. But it was only advisory. So, ultimately the board, has to have discretion to act. That's why the board is elected, to make, that type of difficult decision. So I would place, more emphasis on earlier involvement and a greater degree involvement, greater degree of involvement by the community, rather than any kind of, direct vote on that type of thing.
I think you have time left, no?
Okay, yes. I think, I know that there are, efforts to continue to modernize our operations. So that's just, something else that I would like to help the board work on. I think the current online payment system, there's still like a 3-day delay between, payments and them actually being credited. So I think that's something that could probably be improved upon.
30 seconds.
Things like, filing maintenance requests and keeping track of maintenance requests for your apartment. I think these are, I think those may be in the works, but if it's not, I think that that type of thing should be accelerated.
Time.
Thank you.
The next question is for Robert Sikorski. It is from Lynn Mallison in Building 5. It is the congestion pricing question, which I have read about 4 times so far, so I'm pretty sure he's familiar with it. The congestion pricing tax will hurt many residents within the so-called CBD by charging an estimate between $9 and $24 per day, even while parked. What has been done? How will you address the situation?
Well, the interesting thing is the only way to address the situation is by putting pressure on our electeds. But what I think the pressure has to be is not to reduce what we have to pay, is for the people in the affected area below 60th, we have to say we have to be exempt and we have to be very strong and say that very loudly to them. And they were very dissatisfied with, it's really discrimination. We are discriminated against for living below 60th because those who live above 60th, they can live in the Upper West Side in very nice places, but they're not being discriminated against. They're not being hit with that, but we are. And what's the rationale for discrimination in residence? There is none. And so we have to scream and yell and even threaten lawsuits. And I think there are organizations that are looking at that, but we don't have the rules for it yet. So they can't sue until there's rules. So we have to know what it's going to be, but we have to be prepared to bite the bullet and say, you're discriminating against us and you can't do that. It's a legal act. It's not a legal act and we refuse to acknowledge an illegal act. Okay? I heard some comments on the credit union. I think that's what I have to say about congestion pricing. And by the way, don't forget what was mentioned by Charles Bayor is that there is going to be a meeting with electeds and they have to hear from us. This is an illegal act and we object to it. We are being discriminated against and we should demand an exemption from that.
30 seconds.
That's not right. Okay, and they can have other rules. They may say, well, maybe they'll exempt all of Manhattan from it. But I think it's an illegal act. So go and attend that meeting. Okay, if you're not sure, Charles will tell you again when the meeting is and where it's going to be. Okay, because he's a Democratic district leader, he has a lot of influence here. But we have to put a lot of pressure. Time?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next question is for David Smoke. It is from Tira Bluestone of Building 10. Please share what you will do to enforce the mask mandate in Penn South if you are elected. Might it include a penalty fee for anyone observed without a mask?
Thank you for the question. I think, that was answered that those pieces are in place. As I think Morris mentioned, Penn South is holding our residents to a standard that many other cooperatives and buildings are not. And I agree with that. And I think we need to keep each other safe. The mask goes on for a couple minutes as you walk in, get in the elevator, go into your apartment, you take it off, right? So many people are falling to this virus, ill to this virus, right? My loved ones are affected by this virus. It's a very simple thing to do, right? And I think that, like it was said, it's on the record, right? There's going to be residents that choose not to, and that could be handled appropriately where it needs to be appropriate. One thing that keeps coming up and using my union background and is that everything that we have built here has been built under union leadership, right? From the very beginning. And what makes a union strong is the collective aspect, the collective bargaining. So when we're thinking about congestion pricing, right? And this has been said by many of you already tonight, right? We are stronger together, right? We work together to make that change. Of course, residents shouldn't be paying that pricing, right? We work together to make the decisions that best our community as a whole, right? And many might not agree. Like I said in my beginning statement, right? Many might not agree, and that's okay. I want to hear your perspective. I hope you can hear mine, right? And together, we're going to make decisions that take safety, health as a priority, right? And that includes the safety and the infrastructure of our buildings, right? And making sure we're thinking about the future. The future. My kids need a place that's safe, that's secure, and we're going to do that together. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Petra Schein. It is from Ellen Shapiro in 3B. Who associates themselves with leaps?
Sorry?
Who associates themselves with leaps?
I don't. I'm not associated with leaps. I know what the acronym stands for, and but that's all it is. I have attended one meeting years ago just to learn what the organization was all about, but that was the last one, and that's it.
You have time if you'd like to talk about something else, Petra.
That's it.
Okay. The next question is for Aaron Bruto from Alice Rydell of Building 8A. What are the specific plans and who do Building 8A residents turn for detailed information on safety, air quality, noise levels, and more that can't be summed up in 50 words or one question regarding the planned demolition and construction of Commercial 5?
That's a great question. My guess is, since the project has not begun.
Aaron, your mic.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Aaron, you can start over. We couldn't hear you very well.
Sure, no problem. That's a really great question. My guess is that at the board, on the board has not made that decision yet, nor has management, nor has MAG. There's a lot that has yet to be decided. And I think that's exactly part of the problem with the lack of transparency. And my vision is that the board would have put together some sort of detailed presentation on the state of commercial building number 5, at least a couple of years ago, and laid out some possible options. Perhaps those options that we had in that vote, although I would also hope that some other options would emerge over time, and then open itself up to solicitations of other possible solutions. In that context, these sorts of questions could possibly be answered. A very large project like that, you don't always have all of the details worked out ahead of time. However, a lot of these issues can be worked out if you do these things well in advance. Now, I say this in part because the board is only 15 people. It's an unpaid position. Lots of people have jobs. There's no way that the board members could think of every possibility. It's just not possible. So the more open we are, the more transparent we are, then the better our solutions will be. And I think the more open we are, the better our diversity will be, the better our solutions will be, and the better our affordability will be. Because when we all have the information, we will have answers, we will have good discussions with one another. And that is, I think, really, really key.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is for Morris Benjamin. It is from Judy Cohen in Building 2A. Last year, I sent a letter to the board regarding the inequity of lifetime membership in the garden, which has a waiting list of over 220. I requested that my letter be discussed in open session, so cooperators would be aware in the minutes. Why was it discussed secretly in executive session?
The issue of the garden and the lifetime memberships have been discussed many times in the board minutes, public minutes, over the last couple of years, probably over the last 5, 10 years. I was an original founder of the Jeff Droulet Garden, as was Judy. And it was never intended to be lifetime membership. It sort of evolved for some reason, and board members have worked with that group to increase the membership over the years by reducing the amount of space that members have. And to deal with the waiting list for membership, the board has also, and it's been in the minutes, public minutes, that there's another space across the street from the garden that is going to be developed as an open space. And the board has been working with volunteers on how to design and create that space. It will not be exactly the same as the Jeff Droulet Garden, but it will be open to people that have been on the waiting list, and there'll be a lottery to get in if there's more than a certain amount of people.
30
So
seconds.
thank you, but that's what's going on there.
The next question is for Charles Bayor. Susan Ortega of Building 6B. Why or why not do you think there should be term limits for Penn South board members? You just muted yourself, Charles, instead of unmuting. You need to unmute, Charles. Unmute.
Not working. Oh,
There
okay.
you are, yep.
Okay. Term limits is a very tricky question. If you put term limits into effect, because you want to limit the amount of people, the amount of time somebody serves in office, the idea, it sounds very good. But in many cases, when you do that, you lose a lot of residual, you lose history. You lose people with a lot of experience who have been on the board or any on the city council or the state assembly, whatever. You lose that important component of the body. So I have problems with term limits. I think that the term limits that were instituted, for instance, on the city council, have turned out not to be as great as as effective as they think they have been. So at this moment, I can't endorse term limits just totally without a study of it and how it would affect the functions of this board if we did something like that. If I can say something else, I often find in these discussions and when people complain about things that are being done, board members are just like everyone else. They're cooperators in this. You know, they're volunteering their time. We walk the streets like everyone else, and we're approached by people. I find that to put us on a higher level, we're not. We're hardly on that level. And okay, I'll finish. That's it. I just want to say board members are like everyone else in the audience, in their apartments, period. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So that is the end of the third round of questions. And now we will proceed with closing statements, which I believe are 2 minutes. Mario will let me know if I got that wrong, but I think it's 2 minutes. And we're starting in reverse order. So the first person to speak in their closing comments is John Dillon.
Well, it's been an interesting evening. I'm not sure I can finish this in 2 minutes, but I shall certainly try my best. The question was asked about term limits. I'm absolutely in support of term limits. And someone, it might have been Mr. Bayor, says that there's such a thing called experience. Yes, there is experience. I'll tell you what experience has brought us so far. Building 5, non-union labor, and these guys both, Morris Benjamin and Charles, both put in their UFT affiliations, but Morris voted for non-union labor. Charles has not taken a stand on that. But I'm in favor of term limits for board members. The other question I need to ask is, why was Building 5 allowed to deteriorate so badly? I mean, I have no idea why, because we don't allow this building to crumble down the way that you claim that the Building 5 is falling down. It must have been allowed to happen. If you recall, when they started the HVAC process, they had town hall meetings, cooperators were involved, and we found out that we'd actually had people who had experience in these things were living in the co-op, and they helped. Nothing like that happened with Building 5. I'm sure there's lots of people in these buildings that have experience in real estate that are not on the board. We live in a co-op, and we all have to work together. And I think that has been missing. And what I'd like to advocate today, that if you're going to vote for anybody, and if you're opposed to Building 5, if you're opposed to non-union labor, and you're opposed to the Secrecy Office Board, you vote for Aaron Bruno and I. Thank you. Good night. It's nice to meet you all.
John, so I made a mistake, and I did not ask the last two questions for you and Tom Rosenthal.
Wow.
It happens. So you have one more question with 3 minutes, and the question, you get 3 minutes to answer.
Okay.
So are you okay with just answering the question, or are you okay with proceeding that way?
Whatever way you want, I'll do it.
Okay. So the question for you was from Ellen Shapiro, 3B. Who associates themselves with LEAPs?
You know, I sort of had this question about 5 times, and the first thing that pops into my mind was the McCarthy hearings. Have you ever been a member of a certain party? Well, I'm not a member of LEAPs. I know what LEAPs is. I support many of their issues. I don't want to repeat my closing statement here, but I'm going to say something about the MAG building, which is really my thing that annoys me the most about the board. We had a poll. It was a fake poll. The decision had already been made. And it's just, you're treating us like children when you do things like this. We are cooperative. We need to be part of the process. We can't have this top-down leadership that the board is showing. I mean, it's hard for me. I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm going to stop there because I already made my closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. So I'm very sorry about that. Tom, you had one more question, which was from Joan Starr of 6B for Tom Rosenthal. Will the recent crisis at Penn South Credit Union affect the loan applications for certain cooperators hoping to secure funding for larger apartments?
Ms. Starr, thank you, but I have no idea. I'm not familiar with credit union operations, but I would like to say that I think that, I don't know how it would be done, but I think the board should pass a rule that no board members' relatives can work for the co-op or affiliated organizations of the co-op. That's not to say that there was any irregularities that way, but I think we need to be like Caesar's wife. We need to be above reproach in all things and above the appearance of irregularities. Congestion pricing, I just want you to know that what Brad Hoylman and Gottlieb came to the Co-op Council to say that they're considering doing a income means waiver, so that if they threw out the figure of $60,000, if you make less than $60,000, you get, a tax rebate for the times that you went back into the zone after leaving it. And I found that to be unacceptable. That, like Robert, I'm incensed about this whole idea, and there should be an absolute waiver for everybody who lives in the zone. You should not be taxed for leaving your house. The other thing about congestion prices that annoys me is that they say they need this to raise money for the MTA. Well, if congestion pricing actually works and there are fewer vehicles coming into the zone, well, then they're not going to make enough money for the MTA, and they're going to continually raise the fees. It's a bit of insanity.
30 seconds.
That's it, Mario?
30 seconds. Sorry.
All right. In my closing, I'll talk about the Building 5 and how I'm not sure we got such a good deal. Thank you.
You can just roll into that because you're the next person to speak in closing.
All right, very good. So I did a little bit of research, and these are figures that you can get on the internet. They're averages. All right, so the average cost of land in Manhattan, this is average, is over $600 a square foot. We have, considering 7 stories, we have something like 2,800,000 square feet. Now, the average selling price per square foot in Manhattan is over $600 a square foot. Construction costs are about $290 a square foot. So we're looking at maybe a $30 per square foot profit, which comes to an enormous figure. Oh, certainly we could net. Now these are really off the cuff envelope figures, but we could net $60 million, and the developer would still make a very tidy profit. And so that the board did not, the purpose of Building 5 is not to create housing, is not to create affordable housing, is to create money for the operation of our co-op. And if we don't generate enough money, then the maintenance will go up for the electrical overhaul, for the piping overhaul.
30 seconds.
And I don't want to see the maintenance go up. I want to see this as affordable housing, right? Not affordable to the wealthy, but affordable to the middle class. And so I think we can get a much better deal where we can net enough money to cover the infrastructure costs of the next 5 years. But I don't know that for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker to close is Charles Bayor.
Yes. You had a question?
Your closing statement?
Oh, closing statement. I'm sorry. I want to thank everyone for participating in this event. I think it's very important. There were some very interesting points brought out, interesting discussions, ideas that cooperators can think about. I would like very much to continue on the board because I think that I have the experience and the knowledge through my work in the Co-op Council and other organizations. I had been once prior to moving to Penn South. I had been president of a co-op on 36th Street in Murray Hill. So I'd like to continue. And I think I can be a valuable asset to Penn South and to the board of directors. I have some great, I have ideas about making sure that we remain a limited equity co-op. It's extremely important that we pass this on to future generations. Extremely important. I also like to look at the cost of apartments in Penn South. I find that the rising cost of the equity is a problem and maybe needs to be looked at. I thought so many years ago. I'd like to bring it up again. And of course, I'd like to have a much more vibrant program in dealing with diversity. I commend—
30 seconds.
Okay, I have to commend—
30 seconds.
I have to commend Petra for her work, Conversations of Color. She's doing a fabulous job, and we need more organizations like that. Thank you very much. Please vote for me.
Our next speaker is Morris Benjamin.
What did you say? Sorry.
Hi. I'm asking again for your vote to re-elect me to the board of directors. I've been on the board for 30 years. I guess I'm good for another 30. Former president for 11 and the current board secretary. Over that time, I have fought to maintain Penn South as one of the most affordable, desirable places in New York City to live. We have voted 3 times to not privatize. Each time we have voted, the percentage of people supporting staying the way we are was larger. And that's great because people that live here know what they have and want to keep it that way. We have upgraded our power plant, modernized our lobbies, improved the lighting, the infrastructure, and everyone will say, yes, our grounds are beautiful. We have accomplished all of this without major increases in maintenance. How do we do that? Good financial management. That's what the board does. You, the shareholders, have allowed this to happen by electing competent members to the board. And I am asking that you support me for re-election this year. And that you support other people. I'm not going to give names, but you have 9 competent people running here. Every person running is competent and would probably do a great job on the board. So out of these 9, you have to select 6. And I'm asking that you make me one of those 6. The issue dealing with the unions, just remember that MAC partners, even though they're not going to have all union, will have union. That's why you're not going to see a rat outside. They have agreements with the unions. And people they hired are going to work for them. When the building is up, will probably be unionized. Just like we've made Gristiti all union when they signed a lease.
Time.
So again, I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Aaron Bruto.
Thank you. So I just want to thank everyone who's been watching, and I want to thank everyone who organized tonight's event. It's been really great to talk about important issues about Penn South with fellow cooperators. We talked a lot about a lot of issues tonight: term limits, congestion pricing, commercial building number 5, the need for infrastructure, the very important issue of racial justice, the need or the lack of need for executive session. All of those issues will be solved, or in part solved, by greater transparency. The more we talk to one another, the more that the conversation of the board is shared with cooperators, the stronger we will be. Because if cooperators understand our challenges more fully, we will all be able to work together toward racial justice. That only happens when people talk to one another. We will also be better able to defend our affordability and, if possible, extend that affordability throughout our neighborhood. which is why I respectfully disagree with Tom's argument that we see our property as a place to make a profit on. But I know that, and I know Tom's position because of an event like this, because we are discussing these ideas out in public.
30 seconds.
John, Dillon, and I are both running to make sure that the board is as transparent as possible to cooperators, that there be no surprises, and that we all know what's coming so that we can all work together towards those solutions. I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Petra Schein.
One moment, please, as my voice has dropped another octave. Thank you, Jenna, Mario, the team. Thank you, everyone, for participating. So this was quite interesting. And thank you, audience in Penn South, for listening to what all of us have to say and what we have discussed this evening. This evening, or again, morning, if you are where I am, I'm asking for your vote. But whatever your choice is, please vote, as all of your participation is vitally important. Just vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Smoke.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful discussion tonight. As we're sitting here, the name Jeff DeLay comes up, as the, because the garden is named after him. And, my thought is initially was, he was a family friend, but he was more than that to me. He was my environmental studies teacher at Humanities High School, right? He became a mentor in that realm. I went to school, I got my environmental studies degree, and I focused that in my teaching for many, many years, right? And when you hear names like that come up, it's important to understand and think about where it all started from. And like many of our board candidates here and on the board, right? Jeff was really focused on environmental studies. And we need to do that as well, right? Amongst everything else that's being discussed, right? But how can we use green energy, use it in a way that is going to reduce our carrying costs, right? Help us support all of these concerns that have been brought up, right? And I can't sit here and give you answers. I have a lot of ideas, right, that I can go on about. I have, and I would love to continue to talk about that, right? And one way we do that is through adaptive leadership, distributive leadership, getting as many people involved as we can, right? And building a cooperative where all voices feel heard, right? And that's everybody, social justice issues. All of these issues are so important. It's been a focus of my work in the New York City public schools for many, many years as a union leader, as a chapter leader, changing the culture of my school, working together with administration, right? We're going to do that here as well. And it has been happening, right? So I want to support that. I want to take that to another level, right? I want to work with everyone, and I want to make a place where we are happy, or we could also disagree at times as well. And that's okay too, because that's what the cooperative spirit is all about. Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you out and about.
Our next speaker is Robert Sikorski.
Well, thank you for listening to all of us. This is very, very good and fruitful. A lot of things came out. Let me just touch on some of the topics that came out. One is a credit union problem. The credit union problem isn't so much a problem, it's an incident. And the incident came because a person was fired, went home, and they didn't change her password, and she deleted everything. Not a big deal, only because the credit union took the steps that all major institutions do, is they backed up everything, and they had to reprogram their computers to reintroduce all this documentation. It's fine for the credit union, terrible for the person who did this because she had to plead guilty to a felony. So it's not something that happens every day. And they've now learned to change passwords and they fire somebody. So, and they've learned the value of backing everything up. That takes care of that. As far as green energy goes, you know, it's interesting. When I first went on the board a long time ago, the cost of green energy wasn't so effective because it was very expensive and it didn't produce that much. However, now things are changing and we're recognizing that things are changing. It's more cost efficient and we're looking to do this more and more and more so we would be less reliant on the power plant. And so that's going to be an important thing that comes up. And on this, we always get cooperative input. The issue of
30 seconds.
Okay, term limits for the board. One of the problems with term limits for a board is that if you have term limits for the board, management becomes the board because management stays in power. Say you have a two-term limit, and all the decisions are made by management, and management doesn't have to worry about the board people because they turn over all the time, which has been the problem with the New York City Council, because the people in the City Council who know how to run the city, the administration of the city, can ignore them to some degree at least, because they know that they're going to be gone in 2 years. And
Right.
So they don't have the impact of saying that, no, we can go back to our constituents and say, our constituents liked us, they like our policies, they want to keep us. And so that's another problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes our event. Thank you all the candidates. Thank you.
Hello, Jenna.
You got one more.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I keep doing this. I'm so sorry. David Goldsheft.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. I'll say it's clear that everyone here cares deeply about our community, and tonight's discussion is a big part of why I'm so glad to live here. We all share goals of keeping our costs low, our buildings and common areas safe, secure, and well-maintained, to improve quality of life, and to make sure that everyone is treated respectfully, equitably, and fairly, all while still ensuring that we are in compliance with laws and regulations and without compromising the long-term financial stability of the co-op for our and future generations' benefit and enjoyment. That is a tall order, and I feel that I'm among the candidates best suited to work with the rest of the board, their different perspectives and strengths, and the community as a whole to do just that. I will help ensure that the how and why of the board's decision-making process does not leave us with more questions than answers, and I will always be open and available to speak with cooperators and listen to your concerns. I have the professional background to get this job done. I'm trained to clearly communicate ideas and carefully consider every side of an argument. This is the 7th address that I've had since I moved to the city, and I hope that it will be the last, at least until we get a 21st floor terrace apartment. You can ask me any questions at the email address listed in my biography, or if you see me around building 2, please don't hesitate to stop and speak with me. I hope you'll give me the opportunity to help Penn South remain the wonderful place that it is. Thank you for listening, and please consider voting for me. Good night.
So that concludes our event. Thank you all the candidates. Thanks to everyone who joined us. We'd like to remind you again that your participation in the annual election is very important. Please look in the mail for your proxy form. It's important that you participate in our election. The Penn South bylaws require an election to be held each year to elect the new board members. The ballots must be cast by at least 940 eligible voters. Those are shareholders. This represents a quorum of 1/3 of the eligible voters. If we don't have a quorum, the election must be repeated. That costs money. So you can also vote in person the day of the annual meeting. All of the instructions are online or in the packet of information that's going to be mailed to your household. This year, the Penn South annual meeting is on Sunday, November 7th, 2021 at 12 noon. The event will be virtual. You can watch it live on the Penn South website at pennsouth.coop or on RCN channel 99. After the presentation is concluded, there'll be a phone number displayed and a Zoom link on the screen for shareholders to ask their questions. A recording of the presentation will also be online. Thank you again for joining us for the 2021 Penn South Meet the Candidates Forum.
Before we conclude, let's give please a big thank you to Jenna for doing an excellent job of moderating today.
Only messing it up a little bit.